Caledonian McBrain and the Big Light present
Falcha, I'm Coinneach Macleod, the Hebridean Baker. Originally from the Isle of Lews, I'm an author, TV presenter and travel blogger. I spend lots of time travelling around the world, discovering amazing places and the people who live there. But my favourite place is home, the Hebrides, making me your perfect guide to the very best things to do, see, eat and enjoy throughout the incredible islands on the west coast of Scotland. Welcome to Scottish Island Adventures. In this episode, I'm making my way to Stornoway, the capital of the Isle of Lews. It's the Outer Hebrides' main commercial centre, a vibrant cultural hub and a brilliant base for exploring. It's a 3-hour Coinneach ferry journey from the pretty west coast port of Ullapool. Coming up, I get a sneak peek behind the scenes of one of the Hebrides' most iconic exports, Stornoway Black Pudding. I visit the incredible Museum na nGaedheal at Lewis Castle and get the inside story on what some enterprising islanders are doing with seaweed. But first, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined here in the studio by a fellow Leosach, the one and only Cathy MacDonald. Many of you will recognise Cathy from her TV appearances and radio show, but you might not know that she's also the voice of Coinneach ferries. Cathy, Kimera how?
Hamika Matap alive.
Great to see you. And yes, we are celebrating our capital city of Stornoway.
I know, which is what it was to those of us who were lived out with the cattle grids. In a sense, that was the line, wasn't it?
Do you remember the first time you went to Stornoway?
Probably not, because I would have been tiny and I would have been taken to Woolies.
Oh, of course, Woolies. Woolworths really was...
That was the Harrods, really, of Stornoway, wasn't it?
Stornoway, and sorely missed. But now, what's the first thing you do when you step off the ferry, when you arrive in Stornoway? What's the first thing you do when you get onto the island?
Oh, I heave a huge sigh of relief for a start. I pray it's not going to be raining. And to be honest, because, you know, I live, 20 odd miles out of town, so probably the first thing is stock up on some good island produce. And there's one place that I go to for some good maracu and some good meat, and that's Charlie Barley's.
Well, Cathy, I'm the same. Every time I go home to Lewis, as soon as the ferry docks in Stornoway, I hot-footed to the world-famous Charles MacLeod Butchers, known locally as Charlie Barley's, where I can get my hands on something really special. Famous internationally for their award-winning, and it has to be said, iconic Stornoway Black Pudding. It's as much part of the Outer Hebrides culture as Harris Tweed and the Lewis Chessmen. A staple in every island kitchen, along with champagne and Stilton, it's been given protective status, an assurance of quality and regional authenticity. I met up with sisters Ria and Shona, who, along with her cousin Rona, now run the business, to find out the history behind this legendary slice of foodie heaven. I've just arrived in Stornoway, the capital city of the Outer Hebrides, and I'm taking a wee walk down to the harbour side, seeing the fishing boats getting ready to head out into the North Atlantic, seeing the seals ready for their wee treat as the fishing boats come back in. And we're overlooked by the beautiful Lewis Castle, dominating the skyline over the harbour to Stornoway. But my first stop is to the most famous shop in the Outer Hebrides. And you won't believe it, it's a butcher's. I'm heading to Charles MacLeod Butchers, or as it's affectionately known on the island, Charlie Barley's. And we're heading in to meet Ria, one of the owners of the shop. Falcha, Ria, Kimera, how? Good to see you.
Great to see you.
Again, I feel like I haven't seen you for a few weeks though. How's things?
Great, yeah, how are you getting on?
Ria, I love coming into the shop. Look at everything you got here. The sirloin steaks, the local venison chops, but of course, most famous over there, the black pudding.
We've got a lovely range in just now, especially with the addition of local venison coming up from North Uist Estate.
There's a fridge nearly just for black puddings.
So black puddings, for sure, our biggest seller. That's the Stornoway Black Pudding. That's what we're famous for. But not to shy away from how good our white pudding is. It's very much a Scottish product. So it's very like the black pudding, but it doesn't contain the blood, which is appealing for people, but it's a beautiful, it's like a mealy pudding, perfect for stuffing and accompaniments for chicken and things like that as well. We do a fruit pudding, which throws people a lot of the time.
So
a lot of people
us,
think it's just something you put in a dish and you throw some cream or custard on the top, but it's very much a savoury product. I love it with bacon. It's my favourite.
I love it with a fry-up.
Regionally, there's loads of variations on black pudding. Down south seems to be completely different to what you can get in Scotland, but here in Stornoway we make it very unique ourselves. The oatmeal we use is Scottish, and the suet we process ourselves, which gives it a much, much smoother texture than what you find elsewhere. We're not as heavy-handed with the spices as some of the other producers as well, so it makes it a lot more palatable for people as well.
Now, this shop has been part of your life, your whole life.
My whole life, yes.
But tell us a wee bit about the history and how the butcher shop arrived here.
So this shop was opened here on the site we're standing just now in 1947 by my grandfather. It's grown in size considerably since then, but we're now third generation running this shop, so it's very much in the blood.
And who's running the shop now?
So there's myself, my sister Shona and my cousin Rona.
How did the nickname Charlie Barley's come about?
Well, we're a family of Macleods,
Yes.
and there's a lot of us. My grandfather was given the nickname in school, and it just followed on from there. I'm married and no longer a Macleod, but I will always be known as Ria Barley locally.
Why did you decide to stay in the family business?
My dad always said to me, you need to try other things, and it just came about that actually I came back, started working here, and I didn't want to leave after that, which just, it's your own and it belongs to you, and you just feel so proud of what you've achieved, really. My daughter says when I run the butcher shop and I say, hold on a minute,
amazing.
You might want to do something else, just like I was told, but she might be here in a few years' time.
And look who's just arrived, the sister of the shop as well. Shona, Kimera, how are you?
Hello, very good. And yourself?
Great. We were just saying there to Ria, maybe it's not obvious to think that, when your father has a butcher shop that you would kind of take it over.
Well, it was definitely not a very ladylike job. But I spent the whole time in the shed in the barn with my dad with the sheep, and over in Quebec with the, as you know yourself,
Yeah, I know.
with the cows and the sheep, and it's just became part of what I wanted to do.
It's got to be quite unique that 3 women are running the most famous butcher in the Hebrides.
There has been quite a few times I've been on holiday and I just explain what I do, and a lot of the time the people will come back to me and say, well, there must be an older man. There must be somebody older than you, and he must be a man that's in charge of that, because there's no way that you're in charge of that.
But you're the boss.
But yeah, absolutely. Girls rule.
Now, Shona, you're all day, you're surrounded by black pudding, but I know you like to eat it as well. What's your favourite way to eat the black pudding?
My favourite way was when my granny used to make the fresh pancakes on the griddle, and she'd place that on the bottom, and then there'd be a slice of black pudding, and there'd be scallops on top, and a wee slice of bacon on the side. Absolutely delicious. So would you like to come through the back and try some of the black pudding? It's just going to come out of the oven.
Right, that is my kind of offer. And you've got some scallops for me in the back as well, have you?
Yes, of course.
So we're here in the back of the shop now, and all I'm seeing is beautiful fresh meat being prepared, and your meals here as well. So what a production.
Venison over there, and we're cooking stuff out the back. Steak pies and chicken pies. Okay, so here's the black pudding freshly from the grill.
Oh,
Would you like to try some?
Right, you don't need to ask me twice. Shona, this is a taste of home on a plate. Just delicious. I'm going to the shop to buy a couple before I go home.
Fantastic. That's what we like to hear.
I can still taste that now. I wish I was eating that again. Cathy, are you a fan of the black pudding?
Oh, of course I'm a fan of black pudding. And so are many of my friends. And, you know, you reminded me there of the orders we used to get. Take a few black pudding down with you. And if you were flying, well, that was always going to be a slightly bigger problem than taking them on the ferry, where you could take as many as you wanted. Because you get the big ones, and then there's the sort of 3/4 ones. It's just like sleeves, really. And then the wee toty ones.
I have definitely hidden a couple up my sleeves when I've left the island. But you were hearing there from Shona her favourite way to serve, which was with the kind of a grilled pancake and the black pudding and a scallop and a wee side of bacon. What would be your dream way to serve black pudding if you had guests around to the house?
Well, I think she's kind of replaced my dream of black pudding. I'd probably just put some chutney with it. Nice. As well, because just to have a little bit of sweetness. Because some people are a bit queasy about maracu, black pudding.
The blood in it. Yeah, but it's the flavour of it. And as Ria was saying as well, it's not as spicy as maybe some of the other black puddings in the market. So, and that kind of smooth texture as well. It's so special. I use it in lots of ways. Actually, one of my favourite is on a risotto. I will crisp up little chunks of black pudding and replace, you know how you would maybe have pieces of bread in a salad, like really crisp it up on top of a risotto. Oh, delicious. Charles Macleod Butchers, or Charlie Barley's as it's called on the island, is open Monday to Saturday, 8 till 5. And if you're staying for a few days on the island, camping or self-catering, make sure you stock up on lots of black pudding, or white, or fruit, or all of them to experience an authentic, full-cooked Hebridean breakfast. For more information and details on how to order online, go to charlesmacleod.co.uk or simply visit calmac.co.uk. Cathy, of course, there's more to Stornoway's food scene for visitors than just black pudding.
For sure. You know, if you're looking for something sweet, say. Or, you know what I like is how inventive they've become. You know, the individual businesses. Take Stag Bakery, for example. You know, the biscuits, and they're using local produce, but with a twist. I mean, you know, because I've seen your biscuits for sale. In fact, I think I bought all of them all at once, but it was here on the mainland.
Stag Bakery, they're really famous for their seaweed oatcakes and all those classics. But yes, you can get whiskey shortbreads and marmalade shortbreads of the Hebridean Baker. Definitely encourage folk to pick a couple of boxes up when they visit the islands.
I think so. I think that's the beauty of it too, because it just feels more authentic, doesn't it?
Does.
Because, you know, it's like they always say, don't travel if you can more than whatever, say 5 miles, you know, and eat food that's local to you. And it's the same thing. It's the same philosophy, isn't it? And I suppose, you know, artists talk about how their environment influences their work. And I suppose the same is true about food. It's certainly true about music.
It's so true. And funny is that, because music and culture is such a big part of Stornoway life. If people are visiting the town, what do you recommend?
Well, as we are talking, you know, the Heb Celt Festival has just finished. Pete and Diesel were apparently spectacular.
Always spectacular, Pete and Diesel.
Always spectacular, always loud, and always pull in a great crowd. Tickets are, I think they must sell out quicker than Taylor Swift. Although they are nothing like Taylor Swift, it has to be said, in any way, shape or form.
We definitely are encouraging folk to listen to a wee bit of Pete and Diesel. But there's also the beautiful arts centre at Ullapool. And such unique arts and culture there. Have you ever visited and taken in a show?
I have indeed. It's such a fixture, and I think we're as a place too. You know, you can sit in the cafe, you can have a coffee, you can have a chat with a friend. You just look out and you see the ferry coming in to birth or leaving Stornoway was always just a really, really sad time as you leave the island. So where is placed is perfect. If you're in Stornoway, you literally just walk there. Then you have a selection of cards to send, just little mementos. People just want to mark their visit, don't they, with something personal.
Absolutely. There's wonderful art exhibitions there. There's music, culture. It really is become a centre of music and arts for the town.
And of course, book signings, book launches as well, local talent. And I think that's really good. And they have this wonderful festival in October, the Falkland Festival. And a lot of that, I think, is, pushed forward. And, Roddy Murray leads the charge with that year upon year and never, ever fails to surprise.
Definitely worth a visit. To find out what's on at An Launter, log in to launter.com or simply visit calmac.co.uk. Now, keeping with culture, Cathy, one of the must-sees for visitors to Stornoway has to be Museum na Ngelan at Lews Castle, home to one of the most extraordinary Viking finds in Europe. I've just taken a wee walk up past the butchers and arrived at the gates of the castle grounds in Stornoway, and I'm here outside Museum na Ngelan at Lews Castle, and I'm just about to go in to see one of the most wonderful treasures of the islands. Fáilte com, George. Cymar a how.
Hamig gymach when you hear fáilte arisha could you go Museum Ngelan Sean Stornoway.
Thank you. Nisha, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role here at the museum.
Okay, so my role is team leader for heritage and culture at Coinneach and Shire.
And we're here in Museum na Ngelan, which is in Lews Castle.
Yes.
What do you think it means now for the town of Stornoway? For many years, they would look on the castle, knowing it was maybe falling into disrepair. The most iconic thing on the islands was down in London. What do you think it means now to the people of Stornoway that they've got this beautiful, iconic building at the harbour and the Lewis chessmen, or some of them at least, at home?
I think it's really symbolic. It expresses our identity, expresses where we came from, it expresses everything about our history, our heritage, language, and we're proud of it.
Yeah, and that's what I feel now, walking around the town. There is definitely a pride. We've always had it, but now it's visual for other people to see, and that's fantastic. So, shall we go through and see these iconic chessmen? I'm getting a tingle even just seeing these things again, because it's been a wee while since I've seen them. So we're at the centre of the museum now. What are we looking at now? What can we see?
So we're looking at the Lewis chessmen, Firtalisk Lews, as they say in Gaelic. So we've got 6 pieces here. And, well, they were found in 1831, but they're a lot older than that.
They are. Many people say they're coming from the area of Trondheim in Norway. And that seems to be the story that people tell. And maybe a Viking marauder put them in the sand one day.
Yes, a lot of people will know the story of how they were found by a bodach.
Well, yeah, tell us the story.
Well, the story my granny told me was probably similar to the one you heard yourselves, but, a bodach was on the beach walking the cows, as you do, and came across these chessmen and had them in his shed. Now, I think they were bought for £30, something like that.
Yeah, I heard that. So he had them on display in his cow shed.
Yes.
And somebody came along and said, "Oh, I quite like these. Can I buy them?"
Yeah.
And I'm sure £30 wouldn't have been a bad thing at the time.
No, but when you think about how much they would be worth, how can you put a price on them now?
But when we're looking at them now, what pieces do we have here in Stornoway now?
Right, so, we've got the king there, the knight, warder, queen, bishop and pawn. What's your favourite?
Well, it has to be the Queen. To me, it's either the Queen or the Berserker.
Yeah.
The Queen, for me, is just the way she's sitting there with her her head leaning on her arm there, going, "Oh, either I'm totally over what's going on with the king today or whatever." But she looks so kind of like I need a holiday.
Yeah, come look at you. Yes. Yeah.
What about you? What's your favourite?
I don't think I can pick a favourite. Like we love them all.
What are they made of?
Okay, so they're made of walrus ivory and whale teeth, and the detail in each one shows how skilled the craftsmen were. You know, you can see them there.
You're
It's just
totally
incredible.
right. It is incredible. As you say, we're looking at 6 of them here.
Obviously, out of a set of, I think, 82 pieces.
Yeah.
They're on a long-term loan from the British Museum. And so these relationships with the British Museum and National Museums of Scotland are really, really important to us, because obviously they attract visitors, and tourists and visitors and locals want to find out about the history and the culture and the heritage of the island.
Looking at the history of the island, and again just talking about the Viking influence and the Norse influence, I mean, they started to depart their shores, you know, kind of like 1300. But what can people also see in the islands?
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that I hear most people talk about regarding that is place names.
Place names.
You know, and that's embedded in our culture. It's obviously in villages.
Yeah, I mean, even the village I'm from, the village of Cromore,
Yes.
Cro being the Old Norse word for cattle or a cow, and more, of course, being the Gaelic for big. So I remember growing up knowing I was from the village of Big Cow, and the next village is Crobake, Wee Cow.
Yep.
And always thinking, I was quite proud the Vikings thought we had bigger cows
Yes.
than the next village. Everybody always has a story.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the best things about this museum. You know, walking through this now, it's all about island stories, isn't it?
It's all about island stories. The galley that we're in just now, Bustling Island, so it gives you a taste of the islands. And all the stories are told by the people of the island. You know, that's where their identity come from. The people of the islands, we are very proud of where we come from. We are proud of our heritage, we are proud of our history. And of course that's closely linked to the language as well, Gaelic, which you will see throughout the museum. You'll see
There's something quite unique about the museum, where if somebody sees one of the displays, they'll see it firstly in the language of Gaelic.
This has always been a Gaelic first museum, Gaelic-led museum, and so it's really, really important, not only to us as a council, but just in the wider general sense, to have Gaelic visible. So yes, all the panels you see in front of you and around the museum are bilingual, and they always will be. And there are things that you can say in Gaelic that you can't literally
so
translate,
true.
and vice versa.
And vice versa as well.
Anybody who wants to come will be made to feel very, very welcome. We're very fortunate in the castle to have, obviously, the museum. People want to sit and have a coffee and have some cakes or whatever, they're very welcome to. We also have a shop, so they can buy replicas. So we have the full package here, and you know, we'd welcome everybody who wants to come and visit.
Well, talking of coffee and cake, I think that's the perfect next trip for us.
Sounds
Shall we
good
go
to
and
me.
have a coppa?
Sounds good.
Okay. Cathy, you were born not too far from Uig Bay, where the chessmen were discovered. Are you ever tempted to get down with your bucket and spade and find some more treasure?
I would love to. I hope you're not suggesting for a minute that I'm sort of, you know, of a similar age to the chessmen and Coinneach and all of that. But yes, of course, that's part of the excitement, though, and just the fact where they came from, what they represented and so on. And it's just a perfect opportunity to see them close up and personal, as they say, because that's where they were found.
So proud that they're back on the island.
That's where they were found. That's where they woke up. So I think they probably wanted to stay in Uig, because I'll tell you, if I was washed ashore in Uig, I
You'd
wouldn't
want
want
to
to
stay.
leave it.
And Cathy, we were talking about our favourite of the chess pieces, and I couldn't decide between the Queen or the Berserker. They're all just such characters. Do you have a favourite?
No, I don't, because I haven't looked at them that closely, but I've got a miniature set at home.
Me too.
I can't play chess, and I find it fascinating, but they're amazing. And I think, again, it's just the history behind them that's wonderful to think who actually owned them in the first place. How did they end up there? And the fact that they were found buried in sand. What else is down there?
What else is down there? I think definitely the next time I'm in Uig, I'm going to take my bucket and spade over and hope to find some Viking treasure. Museum na Ngelan at Lews Castle really is a spectacular place to immerse yourself in island life, to find out more about how people lived and worked from the earliest times to the present day, and discover how the Outer Hebrides were shaped by a unique combination of land, sea and people. Plan your visit by heading to lewis-castle.co.uk for more information and seasonal opening times. Or simply visit calmac.co.uk. It really is a must-see if you're coming to Stornoway.
Every Scottish island in your bucket list. Every sunrise, every waterfall. Every bird song, every seashell. Every stroll along the edge of the world. Every new friend you make. Every dance, every dram, every downpour. Every crackling campfire. Every sparkling night sky. Every feast under harbour lights. And every photo under that red Calmac funnel. Every moment, every memory, every journey starts a story. And you can start yours at calmac.co.uk.
We're teaming up with Beatson Cancer Charity, an incredible organisation making a significant impact across the west of Scotland. Their vital work depends on the generosity of people like you. Beatson Cancer Charity provides a wide range of essential services to cancer patients and their families. From complementary therapies to specialised health and work support, they offer a lifeline during some of life's toughest moments. If you want to get involved, head over to beatsoncancercharity.org/donate. Your help means the world to those who need it most. The Isle of Harris Distillery is the social distillery, proudly built in the heart of their island community to create sustainable employment for local men and women. With a peat fire burning year-round, a warm outer Hebridean welcome is always assured. And a dram of the award-winning Isle of Harris gin and elemental single malt whisky the Herach awaits. 2 spirits, 1 purpose. To learn more about the distillery's story or to order a bottle or 2, visit harrisdistillery.com. Sláinte. Cathy, what do you think about when I say the word seaweed?
Potatoes.
I think so too, actually. Why potatoes?
Well, because seaweed was the manure used to give us bounteous crops of potatoes, as my sore back will testify. Years and years of, planting, and then you would hoe them, and then you would lift up. You would pull them by the shaws, I suppose they were called, and you would just pray there were heaps of potatoes.
And there always was.
Up.
There really always
Tons
was, because seaweed is a fantastic fertiliser and was really used by all islanders in that way, wasn't it?
Very much so. And I remember dancing around it, because when it was taken from the shore, you had all these horrible sea beasties sleeping up and down, and I absolutely hated them. And I couldn't work out how this was so near to something that I was going to eat. So I just had to kind of forget about that and not tell anyone.
But it was so worth it. The potatoes were just fantastic. Well, some people might be surprised to learn that seaweed is the main ingredient in one of the most luxurious skincare brands, made in Stornoway. Uisce is an award-winning organic skincare brand derived from the pure, clean waters off the coast of the Outer Hebrides. The ocean is at the heart of Uisce. Specifically, 4 types of seaweed harvested weekly from the shores of the company's home on the Isle of Lews. And the products are now featured in prestigious spas across the world. I met with one of the founders, Malcolm McRae, on the shores of the Brae to help with the weekly harvest. I'm here on the Brae, a beach on the east coast of the Isle of Lewis, just outside Stornoway, and I'm here with Malcolm McRae from Uisce. Well, Fáilte, Malcolm, great to be here on a lovely day here in Stornoway.
Oh, it's beautiful today. Yeah, you won't get much better days than this, can you?
Now, why have you chosen to take me here today?
Well, just to show you where we harvest the raw material for Uisce products. Uisce Skincare is a luxury skincare brand, the active ingredient being seaweed.
Malcolm, both of us grew up on the islands, and I think our forefathers and grandfathers probably weren't using seaweed in the same way as you are. So how was it used on the island in the past?
Well, seaweed's got a kind of long history on the island, starting off with the potash industry, and then in our lifetime, you would see seaweed on the on the fiannachs and the crofts.
Absolutely. I mean,
for the potato.
Great
patches.
potatoes are made with fertilizer from seaweed.
Yeah.
But you've chosen a very different direction in using the seaweed. So tell me the history of how this all started.
My background, I studied marine biology at Glasgow University, and then I did a master's in chemistry, and I came back here to work at a pharmaceutical company in Coinneach. My plan was to stay for 6 months, and I haven't left since. So, well, this started back in 2006 when myself and my colleague and friend Martin Macleod, we started Hebridean Seaweed Company. He'd worked on seaweed since he was 16 in the factory in Lews, and the two of us got talking, and he was saying, what a great thing it would be to resurrect the seaweed industry in the island. My wife Joanna, she's a beautician, and she was going back to work after her first child, and she was looking for something different, some new products to use in her own wee business. So she said to me, "You think we know that seaweed's really good for your skin. Do you think you could maybe make something that I could use in the business?"
So literally, it was a chat round the kitchen table one morning, and since then, obviously, this has become a real island success.
I think seaweed is very, very good for your skin. People have always known that down through the ages. But they didn't really know why. Now we're starting to get a much more of a handle on the science of why that's the case, and they're full of really good compounds. I just remember a story I was told about in the Second World War. They used to take airmen that had crash landed and had been burnt and were recuperating. We used to take them down to the shore and cover their wounds in seaweed to kind of speed up the healing process.
Now, Malcolm, Uisce is from a Gaelic word. What does it mean?
It means water.
Where do you get your water from?
When I started Uisce, I thought about taking the water from a river or a loch, but then we found out about this book called the Hebridean Healing Springs. And back in the day, they used to use certain springs in the islands for certain kind of healing properties.
Oh, wow.
For example, there was a well in a particular village that people would go to for if they had a bad stomach.
No way.
Another one if they had toothache, and kind of so on. That's kind of what's what the book's about and the story goes. And there was a well in the book that was quite close to where me and Martin stay in Lochs. So we decided to look at that well, and we found out there was a man from Laxey called Finlay Hoval. He used to look after the well, and when he was born, that was their source of drinking water. So he still used to take water from that well. So I ended up meeting Finlay at the well, and he told me the history of the well, and he used to kind of give it a haircut every year and take the stones out of the bottom and that, and just kind of trying to look after it. Back in the 1800s, Finlay told me that the local doctor in the village used to send his patients there to drink the water from that well to kind of aid their recuperation. So we use natural resources from the land and from the sea.
Tell me what we're going to do today.
Well, we're just going to go down to the seaweed beds there. The seaweed comes in bands on the shore in the intertidal zone between the high and the low water. So we got to keep an eye on the tides and obviously work when the tide's out. Otherwise, we can't get it.
Well, shall we go down to the shoreline, Malcolm?
Yeah, absolutely.
Righto.
Okay, so you'll see, like in front of us here, the first thing you can see is like the kind of bright greens. That's
that's a sea. Is it
sea lettuce? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of edible seaweed. We don't use that type of seaweed because it's not in any kind of volume on the island here. We go for the brown seaweed, which you can see. There's like any amount of it.
It just goes as far as the eye can see. The brown seaweed.
I mean, we've never moved out of this area in 10 years.
Wow, why is that? Just because there's
it's
so much.
Seaweed's like it's a plant. It kind of photosynthesizes just like any other plant, and it's growing at this time of year like the grass.
And the impact, so obviously the tides coming in and out and covering the seaweed, so what impact does that have on the seaweed?
Obviously the seaweed's drawing all its nutrients out of the seawater, but apart from that, it's had to develop like mechanisms to be able to survive when the tide, especially like a hot day like today. Like some of the seaweeds up on the very top of the shore there will be exposed for hours and hours, and they'll become very dry and crisp and that. But when the tide comes back in, they'll rehydrate, and they've adapted over the years to be able to survive here. And that's why when you use Uisce products, they're protecting your skin from the environment. One of the main ones we use here it's called tooth rack. So that's it there.
Uh-huh.
So it's one of the brown seaweeds.
All seaweeds off the Hebrides, they are edible, aren't they?
Yeah, you could eat these ones. I mean, they're not like, I wouldn't recommend. They're not the tastiest ones. On the braai here, you'll get, things that they used to use like carrageen, puddings, dulse, sea spaghetti, sea lettuce. These are the ones that you would probably go for. But the brown seaweeds, we do make supplements out of the brown seaweeds as well. Then you'll see, this is what's called fucus vesiculosus. This is a bladder rack. So you can see the wee bladders there.
Yeah.
So they're the same kind of, it's different subspecies of the same kind of species, but they're different, and the colours are different, and they've got slightly different properties.
And so these wee kind of snap pods that were bursting there, what is that, a protection thing for them, or what?
No, it floats, makes them float in the water.
I see.
Like that one, this one doesn't float, and that one does. When we get to the top of the shore there, the seaweed becomes, it's almost like looks like a wee kind of like hair. It's very, very small, and we use that. It's one called pelvicia, and we use that in our shampoo because it's meant to be good for alopecia. You don't want to cut too much because you want to leave enough so it grows back.
Aha.
So what we'll do is we'll take a bunch of seaweed in our hand there. It's kind of anchored to the rock.
Yeah, naturally it would be anchored to the rock.
Hold fast. So you wouldn't want to cut it at the bottom, otherwise it'll take ages. The more surface area you leave, the quicker it grows back. So we'll just cut across the top here about 5 inches of the top of it. You want to have a go, Conor?
I'll have a go.
Right, watch your fingers.
Let's see. See, that's a lovely, really healthy part there, isn't it?
Yeah. So those kind of, we don't own the seaweed. We're kind of guardians of the seaweed, so we need to kind of look after it. At this time of year, it's a joy to be out here.
How do we get from this to having these beautiful products that you make?
Okay, so we take the seaweed that we've just harvested, and we take it back to the Uisce production facility just on the edge of Stornoway at Willow Glen, and there we will perform an extraction process which we've developed ourselves, like a low temperature extraction process, so we keep all the goodness in the seaweed.
So you've given me here, and it's definitely something I need myself, is a balancing marine cream.
Yeah, so that's kind of it's got quite a high content of seaweed in it.
Yeah, I'm just going to open this to see.
Yeah, so it's a cream, it's just.
Wow, God, it smells beautiful as well, though. That's lovely. It really does feel lovely on the skin. I don't know if Malcolm is making any difference. How do I look? 10 years younger already?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
What a treat. You should be very proud that you're using an island product and it's been showcased around the world.
Well, thank you very much for meeting me down here, and it was a pleasure to tell your story.
Well, Cathy, how do you fancy a seaweed spa?
Look, if it's going to make me look better and feel better, I'm all for it. I don't envisage being wrapped up in seaweed. I think they kind of refine it a bit.
They certainly do. I mean, it was wonderful trying the products. And I have to say, I'm sometimes quite glad that it's a podcast because I do promise the listeners that I'm already looking 10 years younger. But what do you think?
I think you're looking 20 years younger, possibly a child.
But isn't it inspiring that an island business is now, the produce is being used across the world? Isn't that fantastic?
It's fantastic, and I suppose we should say, well, why not? Beautiful, clear waters. You've got less pollution. You've got people who know what they're talking about, who recognise and understand the whole science behind it as well. And who doesn't want to look the best they can? I just want to know, what does it smell like?
Do you know what? The products, they just smelled lovely. Obviously, there's lots of other botanicals and fragrances in there, and they've just got it perfect. For more information on Uisce and details on how you can order online, visit uk.uisce.com or simply visit calmac.co.uk. One last thing, Cathy. If you were advising travellers on one more thing that they could do while in Stornoway, what would it be?
I think they should visit that spectacular building called the Town Hall.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
Isn't it? When was the first time you visited the Town Hall?
I think I was 8 and I was singing at the Mod, at the local Mod, and the stage was twice my height and I was terrified. And every time I go in, I still get that, kind of racing heart. And I remember the library was there as well, and I can remember the smell and shiny wood. I think it might have been mahogany. All of that. It's all just one big memory, and it's a good one. And it's perfectly placed in the centre of the town. And it's got the most amazing architecture. Even if you don't go in, just look at it. It's really special.
Well, that's all from this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like, rate, review, and share with your friends. For show notes and more information on this and all my other island destinations, plus full details on Caledonian MacBrain's routes, timetables, prices, and bookings, go to calmac.co.uk. Every journey starts a story, so book your Caledonian MacBrain island adventure now.
From the Big Light Studio.